The Cold War was filled with civil wars and revolutions, and normally those civil wars would see the US-led West on one side with the communist world on the other. But when the Nigerian Civil War kicked off in 1967 and saw this region break away as the Republic of Biafra, the sides were much less clear. The Nigerian government was backed by the UK, the USA, sort of, the USSR, and Israel, whereas Biafra was backed by the People's Republic of China, France, and also Israel. And given that both sides were such a confusing mess, this raises an obvious question. What on earth happened? Why did the Nigerian Civil War have such weird sides? So, like many conflicts in Africa during the Cold War, the roots of the Nigerian Civil War can be traced back to the end of colonial rule there. Nigeria gained its independence from Britain in 1963, and it was a very diverse country made up of many different peoples, whom Britain clumped together because it made the map look nicer. In the north, the largest region in the country, the House of Fulani people were dominant, and they were the ones who made up the majority of Nigeria's military and were predominantly Muslim. The Yoruba were the largest group in the southwest, and they were the wealthiest, and their region housed Nigeria's current capital. And the southeast was mostly made up of the Igbo people, whose land was home to much of Nigeria's massive oil reserves. Long story short, after Britain left, the three groups couldn't decide on where the capital would stay, how much autonomy everyone would get, and who would be allowed into the army. In 1966, there was a military coup, shortly followed by a counter-coup, and honestly, a lot of people were purged. Ethnic violence exploded and hundreds of thousands of Igbo people fled to the southeast, and leaders there opted to break away in 1967. The Nigerian leadership didn't accept this, and so, civil war. So why were the supporters of each side so varied? Well, the main supporter of the Nigerian government was Britain, who, as their former colonial overlord, felt passionately about the well-being of the Nigerian state, and just kidding, it was oil. British companies controlled about 90% of Nigeria's oil production, most of which went to Britain, and if the Biafran Republic had gained its independence, it may have lost said oil. As such, the British provided lots of guns and lots of money to the Lagos government. The US government wasn't too keen on all of the murder going on, but it wanted to support Britain, which meant not really getting involved. And despite America's empathy for the Igbo, if Biafra seceded, it could have potentially led to other movements springing up across Africa. And civil wars tended to see communist support rise, which meant that Biafra would get no help from the USA. Like its rivals, the Soviet government also supported Nigeria. Not for any moral reasons, but for political and economic ones. The Nigerian government was looking for some planes, which the USSR certainly had to spare, and since Britain had refused to provide them, that meant that there was money to be made. It was also hoped that help in the Civil War would improve relations with Nigeria, which was one of the most influential nations on the continent. However, the Soviets had to be smart about their support, since if they became too influential in Nigeria, they knew that the Americans would get involved. As such, they pressured Britain to provide more military aid by threatening to do it themselves if they refused. This was a bluff since they didn't actually want to do this, but it allowed Britain to believe that they were fighting communism in Africa, when in fact their continued support was keeping the United States uninvolved by making it look like that the Soviets were failing to win influence in Nigeria. As for Biafra, they had three main material supporters: France, China, and Israel. France supported the Igbo, mostly because of their deep concern for their well-being, and oh wait no, it was also oil. France, much like Britain, had oil companies in the region, and if Biafra managed to break away, France could have got some of it. Nigerian victory also worried the French government, who saw Nigeria as being too large and populous. There were concerns that a successful Nigeria could influence France's former colonies around it and diminish its clout in the region. As for China, they had just had a very public falling out with the Soviet Union, and since the USSR was backing Nigeria, China had to do the opposite and so funneled arms to Biafra. It also helped China in trying to establish itself as an independent communist leader with its own reach and influence across the world. The last country which was deeply involved was Israel. Israel was in a tough spot, since politically siding with the Nigerian government would have helped to improve relations with the rest of the continent. Since up until this point, the vast majority of independent African states opposed Israel due to the Palestine conflict. Domestically though, the Israeli people supported the Igbo, and so Israel's government opted to help both. In the end, the support for Biafra did little, and in 1970 it was recaptured and formally reintegrated into Nigeria. And after this, the Nigerian Civil War would not only be remembered for its brutality, but also the peculiar sides that the rest of the world took in the conflict. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and thank you for watching, with a special thanks.
All right. Shalom and welcome back again to another edition to News, Facts, and Comments. I am so glad that you guys are with us today. Today we have in studio our resident, our historian, like we like to say, and he's going to help us break down that video we just saw. And that was a brief synopsis of the history of the Biafra. We're going to talk about a history of a divided people today with our special historian, Mr. Haki Shakur. How are you today, sir?
Free to land, free to land. I'm good, pretty good.
Free to land. So I know that was a 4-minute clip. But did they do a good job, brother? Did they do Biafra situation justice?
Yeah, I mean, it pretty much, it pretty much summed up a lot of what led up to where the status of Biafra is today. It did pretty good.
Okay, all right. So let's start with where we are today in Biafra, and then we're going to work our way back to figure out how we got where we are today. It's a very interesting story, and I think that Afro descendants here in the land should definitely pay attention to how things turn out in the future for Biafra. So go ahead, my brother, without further
Right,
ado.
right. Yeah, that's very important because being that the Biafran people are Igbo people, that's a big connection to us here in the United States of America, the new Africans in the United States of America. I mean, as far as the Igbo diaspora, if people do not know, uh, a lot of us new Africans, misnomer African Americans, a lot of us are descendants of the Igbo Biafran people through the transatlantic slave trade and war and things of that nature. So this is very, very important to us, those who know that they are descendants, and it's a big Igbo Biafran diaspora here in the United States of America and throughout the Caribbean islands and things of that nature. It's a lot of connection to Haiti. It's a lot of connection to other countries like Trinidad and things of that nature. So the Biafrans, Igbo people are scattered all across this globe right now. You got Biafrans and Igbo people in Europe, Australia, and I mean they in just about every country right now. So this also shows the effect of this whole issue of ethnic cleansing of Igbo people, how Igbo people are scattered out across the world right now due to the situation that's going on in Nigeria between the Igbo Biafran people and the federal government of Nigeria. Where the Biafra movement at right now? Right now, it's still going strong. The IPOB, which is the Indigenous people of Biafra, they are the independence movement of the Igbo Biafran people, and they're steady struggling 24/7. You can see them all on the internet. They're in various countries protesting for the restoration of Biafra and things of that nature. Because right now the situation is this: being that Biafra is not being fully recognized by the United Nations, by the world. It's a few countries that is backing Biafra for their status of being restored as a nation. Right now, they're just calling for a simple referendum, and what that referendum is a vote. It's a vote to see what do the Igbo people, the Biafran people, what do they want? What do they want to become a nation? Do they want to restore Biafra? Do they want to join Nigeria citizens in a legitimate way? Or it's all about self-determination under human rights under international law. Is having a simple referendum. So that's where they at today. They're still protesting in the streets. They're trying to get this referendum so they can restore their nation and regain their independence. So that's kind of pretty much where it's at. But as far as the genocidal side, it's the same thing that's going on. You got IPOB members being kidnapped in prison. You got regular citizens, regular Igbo Biafran citizens who are being murdered. The youth is being targeted, murdered, kidnapped. They're still being attacked by Boko Haram. If you don't know who that is, that's a terrorist group that comes from the northern part of Nigeria. The Fulani herdsmen, who are also labeled as a terrorist group, that's continuously to go down in Southeast territory into Biafra land and murder, kidnap innocent Igbo people and Biafran people. And then you got the Nigerian government, the federal government, who's continuously to murder through their military, kidnap individuals, Igbo people through their military. The military is still being a terrorist state on the Igbo people at this moment in time. So that's pretty much where the Igbo Biafrans are today.
So it's similar to what we have going on here in America as far as our plight to achieve self determination and
Yeah,
be a nation within a nation.
yeah,
So I know I did a little bit of history on the Biafran people, and it's my understanding that number one, they're all Nigerians, correct? They're native to Nigeria. All of them are
Well,
just
well, well,
Nigerians,
well,
right?
let's yeah, let's put that in a proper context on what you're saying about being Nigerian. See,
Okay.
this is another issue and another problem. Why this is very important, by the way, is the fact that this whole Nigerian entity and things of that nature. See, we got to go back a little bit. When it comes to being Nigerian, it's similar to being African American. What do I mean by that? We all know that the black people here in America, we were never given the opportunity to decide our fate on where we wanted to go when 1865 came around and when they so-called emancipated black people from slavery. All right, so we never got that choice to decide where did we want to be African Americans, did we want to go back to Africa, did we want our nation of our own, similar to what's going on in Nigeria. Nigeria is a pseudo nationality, just like the African American nationality is pseudo. It's not legitimate. It's not legal. And what I mean by that, these are nationalities that were forced on individuals, nations, and tribes of people forcefully. They wasn't accepted willingly by the people. The people didn't decide to become Nigerian. You see what I'm saying? Just like the Igbos, the Yorubas, the Hausa, Fulani. Well, that's a different story when it comes to the Fulani and the Hausa, because they're kind of behind this whole Nigerian pseudo thing with the identity of being a Nigerian and all those type of things. So what I'm saying is that Nigeria was created by the British Empire. So let's just put that out there. The name and everything, the identity, Nigerian, the territory being called Nigeria was labeled by their colonizers, the British, the Lugars. If people know who the Lugars are the family who headed the operation of the British Empire to colonize that area in the early 1900s. And so when the Lugars came into that landmass, which was not called Nigeria at first, this was a landmass that was split up between kingdoms, tribes, and various ethnic groups. So it wasn't even called Nigeria at that point in time. Nigeria comes from Lady Lugar. Lady Lugar was the lady, the European British lady, who named the landmass Nigeria. And so this is when they bunched up all these ethnic groups in these kingdoms and things of that nature and started calling them Nigerians.
So
So
that's when you're saying British rule, that's during the time of colonization, correct?
yes, exactly. Like
Okay.
if
Okay.
I would advise people to do this. Go back to the Berlin Conference of 1884. So when you go back to the Berlin Conference of 1884, if people don't know what that is, this is when the European nations, various European nations like Britain, Portugal, France,
France.
Spain, and various other European nations, they held a Berlin Conference in 1884 to split up the continent and to create borders and to create colonies of their own to exploit the land and all these type of things and and things of that nature. So basically the Berlin Conference is where all this started to originate from. And when we get into the early 1900s, this is when British really put their colonization down on the landmass that today is Nigeria. So the Nigerian identity and the Nigerian nationality, Igbo people don't agree with that. Yoruba people don't agree with that because that's not what they accepted. You see what I'm saying? So they don't like being called Nigerians to a certain degree because they know that's a colonizer's nationality.
And so all of this is about identity, right? So the war is basically saying about an identity crisis. Those who are rocking with the Western powers are wanting to be known as
Nigerians.
Nigerians,
They want to be
and
Nigerians.
and even though they are indigenous to that land and they were there before the colonization, they still want to be known as Nigerians because they want
Yes.
to be aligned with the Western powers. But
Yes.
then you have the tribes, the Igbo tribe and the Yoruba tribe. They want to maintain their identity as a nation,
Yes.
Igbo, as an Igbo nation, right? So
Yes.
I do remember at some point in time in the history, Igbo people were separated and were operating independent of Nigerians,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
Can you tell us about that time and period?
Yes. People got to realize, like I said, before they split up the continent into colonies and things of that nature. But I'm gonna speak specifically on the Nigerian territory. People got to realize that whole landmass at that point in time was split up into certain. You had certain, like I said, you had certain ethnic groups, certain tribal nations, and you had kingdoms. If people remember, at that point in time, you had kingdoms. Like you had kingdoms like the Oyo Kingdom, the Ifa Kingdom, the Igbo Kingdom called Neri. Then you had the Hasu Fulani kingdoms in the northern part of Nigeria, which was Islamic kingdoms. So at that point in time, these kingdoms were self-governed. They wasn't governed by nobody else. They was governed by their own people. So specifically the Igbo people, they had their own governance and democracies at that point in time. And this was going on all through like the periods of time, I would say and people don't even realize this too. People don't even realize that the Biafra Nation and the Biafra name was in existence before Nigeria got its name. It's on the colonial maps. If you want to do the research, Google the colonial maps of Nigeria landmass. And when you pull up the colonial maps, you will see where Biafra was already a nation. They already had its name and everything. So they were operating independently before the British Empire totally colonized that land.
So now, why can you tell us why the Nigerians are committing genocide on those who are identifying as Igbo people?
Well, this is a historical ethnic cleansing because even before the British came into that landmass, people got to realize this is something I always like to teach people. People got to realize, yes, Africa was peaceful. It was peaceful at one point in time, but you got to remember where you have a proximity of people, and I'm talking about this landmass. Like even today, the landmass of Nigeria has over 300 ethnic groups, 300 tribal nations, 500 languages by various ethnic groups. You got the northern part of Nigeria, then you got the middle belt part of Nigeria, then you got the western part of Nigeria, then you got the southeast, which is the Igbo land, and then you got the Niger Delta. So what I'm basically saying is that people got to realize even before colonization, people didn't always get along. You see what I'm saying? Like, even though we black, we all black. We come from the same, we the same people and things of that nature when it comes to our identity far as a color, a description, we black. But people don't always get along because you always had the kingdom wars. You had your little tribalism wars and things of that nature. So what I'm basically saying that this is a historical dislike for the Igbo people. The Igbo people were, and people got to realize this, a lot of those ethnic groups also are offsprings of the Igbo people. So also it's a self-hating type of thing going on with the situation as well, because a lot of people descend from the Igbo people because the Igbo people are ancient people, which is why we call them Needy Igbo. You see what I'm saying? Which means the ancient ones, the ancient people. You see what I'm saying? So this goes all the way back to ancient times and things of that nature, the dislike for Igbo people. And so
can I just
go ahead.
So can I just say that the dislike came when the Igbos migrated to that area during the time of antiquity.
Well,
it settled there, and the natives there, that's probably like the Fulani, didn't like their ways of living and didn't agree with it, and that's how the divide came.
Well,
and it's right before the colonizers were there, right?
Well, let me put it like this. See, people don't even realize that the Igbo people are indigenous to that landmass. They didn't migrate from anywhere. So you got a lot of historians out here who keep trying to twist and revise the history of the indigenous people of that land. The indigenous people of that land were the Kwa people. The Kwa people are the ancestors of the Igbo people. There's a Kwa language and a Kwa ethnic group that existed in that landmass before the Igbos, came into the existence. But these are their ancestors, their blood ancestors. See, I know, a lot of people like to, they like to use the Igbo people who identify with being Jewish or Israelites and things of that nature, see, they tied their story back to migrating to that landmass. The people who are Igbo that identify with being Jewish, but you got the indigenous Igbo people who know the true history of their people's origin, and the stories have been passed down from generation to generation that Igbo people have always been in that landmass. Now you got Fulanis, the Hassas, Yorubas, and people of that. Now some of those ethnic groups migrated to that landmass, and I'm gonna give you a prime example. The Yoruba people migrated to that landmass because they have history that's tied back to the Sudanese people, the Kushite peoples, and the ancient Kimite peoples and things of that nature. So they migrated to that landmass. But the Fulanis and the Hausa people and things of that nature, they come from more of a nomadic Islamic background. You see what I'm saying? So being that they are Islamic, this is where the disagreement came in with the Igbo people, because the Igbo people are traditional people. They practice their traditional spirituality and things of that nature. And we get caught up in this religious conflicts, religious differences. So the Fulani and the Hausa don't like the Igbo people because of their traditional existence.
Isn't that something? And that is kind of like similar what we got going on here in Americas. And this is why it matters to us, because I read that the majority of the slaves that were taken from the west coast of Africa brought to the Americas, like a great percentage, like over 80% of those individuals came from Igbo land.
Yes.
Am I right? I say.
Facts.
So basically, those are our ancestors over there. Those are our relatives over there, and that's why it matters.
That's why it matters. And
Yeah,
in there, and to slide this in here, you know what I'm saying? Because like I said, I don't like to really get into too many religious, debates or discussion and things of that nature, because at the end of the day, I respect everybody's right and free will to whatever they want to practice. People need to get that understood. I don't go against nobody's beliefs, what they believe in, things of that nature. But like I said, it's a segment of the Igbo people that are Hebrews. They are traditionally Hebrews. So even if you want to take that back to the biblical story of many of our people that are Hebrew and things of that nature, on how they believe we are the Hebrews that were sent west into slavery. It all makes sense when you tie it back to Igbo land, because Igbo people are the greatest percentage of people that were enslaved and captured as political prisoners, which can tie in to the Hebrew story. So it all makes sense at the end of the day.
Because only reason why I'm saying that is because when I know that I read somewhere that they tied Igbo to Eber to Hebrew.
Yes.
Like it got, the name got changed, the pronunciation of it got changed when the colonizers came over there, and now we say Igbo, but it was really Eber or Ebre,
really
or something like that.
It's really Igbo. Like the pronunciation, right? The I in Igbo is an E sound. It's like it gives off an E sound. So when you see the word, it'll throw you off because it begins with an I, but that I has an E sound, and so it's Igbo.
Igbo.
Yeah, Igbo. Yeah. So now, the colonizers twisted it up because they didn't know how to pronounce. You got to remember, these some ignorant Europeans coming out of Europe, so they don't know how to pronounce Igbo. You see what I'm saying? It's simple as that. It's Igbo.
Right. Now, and I'm gonna tell you, what you're saying is so correct, because I remember seeing some time ago a bill of sale that they had posted at I think it was North Carolina, Charleston, wherever they were selling the slaves at, and on that bill it said Hebo, Heebo, for sale. So I say all the time that they knew exactly who they were taking when they took slaves and brought them over here. They were taking a royal group of people. These people, and that's why the Fulani, I believe, you say they were Muslim, but I think it was more than just a difference in religion. I think it was a difference in the way of life.
It is. It is.
And they were kind of,
I'm gonna tell you why it was a difference in life. Igbo people historically have been industrialist people. They have done things ahead of their time. Like even the whole skills when it goes back to iron smelting. People got to realize iron smelting was the central basis of a lot of civilizations evolving. So when we go back to the ancient iron smelting and things of that nature, blacksmiths and all these type of things. All these things tie back to ancient Igbo land. They were doing these things before other civilizations in West Africa. So a lot of these traditions, when we're talking about being industrialization, establishing civilization, language, even the language, the ancient Igbo language, in some research has been labeled as the mother tongue. It ties back to the mother tongue of other languages that are offsprings of other African languages in West Africa and other parts of Africa. So when we doing the research on Igbo history, a lot of this stuff we see today when it comes to modern history, they are hard workers, like they are builders, they're intelligent, they're highly scientific, and things of these nature. So the Europeans, when they came into Africa and they seen what was going on in Igbo land, they knew they had to enslave these individuals because these were the individuals that they could use to build up North America. And that's exactly
what they did. That's exactly what they did, my brother. And so I hope all our everyone that's listening right now can truly understand what we're saying and why we should pay attention to what's going on in Biafra, because we never know over here. One day we might need their assistance. So we're like rooting for them to get it together, just as the same as I know they're rooting for us over here because I know they know who we are.
Yes. Yes.
And as you can see, a lot of people always say, well, nobody ever came for us. Well, those people are still fighting for their independence right now. So how could they come and get us when they're being oppressed still by the oppressors? And we got people that look like us that are helping and aiding and abetting.
Right.
In that
and, and that's the thing about it, man. Like, I hate when people bring that up and they try to say that, well, those people over there forgot about us and all these type of things. See, that's why people that's why you got to educate yourself on the whole proper context. Like me and you always saying, people got to realize this was a war. People think slavery was just some simple system where
they thought it was a trading thing, some trading. I'm gonna give you some funds, you give me some people. No, this is an all-out war.
Yeah, you know what I'm
saying? Is what it was.
And being the fact that it's an all-out warfare, you being attacked 24/7, 365. I'm talking about from various methods, strategies, tactics, in ways of colonizing the people. And I hate to say this, but the highest advanced way of enslaving people today is through neocolonialism, where now you got a blackface on white supremacy. And this is pretty much, like I always tell people, Nigeria, I would say Nigeria and a few other countries, right now, they are the highest examples of neocolonialism, because you're looking at black faces on white supremacy who are oppressing and genociding other black folk. You see what I'm saying? And this is why Africa can't advance. This is why they can't move forward, because the white man ain't got to do the work no more. He ain't got to do the genociding no more, because now he got neocolonialist Negroes in high positions in Nigeria, keeping these people oppressed.
And that's their job. In order for them to maintain their position, their status, they have to oppress. And see, that is something that definitely came from the Europeans, this caste system, right?
Yes.
So tell me about, what do you think about ECOWAS? Should they go in and try to bring some peace?
To be honest with you, the ECOWAS, they're kind of shaky too. Like, just like the African Union, these organizations were founded and supposedly built on being legitimate, you know what I'm saying, democracy for African nations. Right. You see what I'm saying? To push the European colonizers out and try to, you know what I'm saying, reestablishing, taking care of our own people. Like the great Kwame Nkrumah stated, like, we're supposed to be taking care of our own. But unfortunately, as it always goes throughout history, these people are bought out through money, through riches and things of that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Materialism and to be on top. You know what I'm saying? Let's just go ahead and put it out there. To be on the top of this society and to live good and all these type of things, to where they forget the values, they forget the principles on why these organizations were created. The African Union today supposedly supposed to be the African United Nations, but it has never evolved to that. ECOWAS is supposed to be the economic foundation and the economic United Nations of West Africa. But as you see today, they have been infiltrated You know what I'm saying? They have been bought out by the
They've been
European nation.
compromised. They've been
Yeah,
compromised.
they've been compromised and bought out by European colonizers, and they're still doing the dirty work for Europeans.
Right. Right.
So I just put it to you like this: at this point, you can't even really trust these organizations. You can't even really trust the United Nations, because the United Nations will sit back and tell you that these are violations of human rights. These are violations of self-determination of a people. This is breaking international law, but they don't intervene. You know what I'm saying?
That's the same thing.
The only thing they do is provide aid at times. But I mean, that's good, but aid ain't gonna stop the killing. Aid ain't gonna stop the genocide. Aid ain't gonna give these people their human rights to self-determination. You see what I'm saying?
So the Nigerian government are those powers, those people that's, being puppets for the Western society. They are trying to squash the Igbo people's voices in
Right.
their demand to separate from them. They
Yeah.
just want to separate it. Am I correct? And
Yeah,
and they don't want they
that's
don't
it.
want them to separate because why?
They don't want them to separate, because this is going to go back to the foundation of the whole Biafra and Nigerian Civil War. The main reason why Nigeria, the federal government of Nigeria, don't want the Igbos or the Biafrans to separate is the fact when you go into the Niger Delta region and the southeastern part of the so-called federal government of Nigeria territory, which is Igbo land, when you go into these territories, and people got to realize this, what is the foundation resource of Nigeria? What is the resource that is making Nigeria the second or the first richest country in Africa? It's about oil. It's about the oil. And where is the oil located? The oil is located in southern eastern Nigeria and in the Niger Delta part of the southern part of Nigeria. So
So
if they,
are the Western powers in there now extracting oil from the land? Is
yeah,
that what's going on?
yes, you got Shell, BP, and if people, the audience that's out here listening, write that down. You got Shell, who's been there historically for a long time, and Shell is known for the gas, because oil and gas, that's hand in hand. You got BP is still there,
British
exploit, yeah,
British
still
Petroleum,
exploiting
right?
the land. These are the two main gas companies who are at the central foundation of the Biafran genocide. These are this is the foundation of why the Biafra and Nigerian Civil War started in 1966, 1967, 1967, and things of that nature. This all comes from oil and the U.S. and British interest in the oil. So if the Nigerian government wants to stay intact, if the Nigerian nation and the Nigerian oligarchy, the wealthy elites, the 1% of the country, if they want to maintain their wealth, they must do the bidding for the US, for Britain, for the gas companies, and things of that nature. So this is why they're still exploiting and genociding Biafra people to keep them controlled so they can control the oil.
So let's talk about that second coup then that happened.
Oh,
The
yeah.
second coup. Tell the listening audience what led up to that and then the results of that.
Well, to explain that whole situation, people got to realize there were 3 military coups that took place in 1966. And these military coups, the first military coup was a revolutionary coup d'etat. I don't even like to use revolution and coup d'etats in the same sentence, because there's a difference between the two, because sometimes coup d'etats are done for the wrong reason. It's not done for the interest of the people. So when you hear people say a coup d'etat, sometimes that is basically saying that this coup d'etat was done really not in the interest of the people, but self-serving to the people who pulling off the coup d'etat. Now, revolution is a revolution that takes place by individuals who are for the people, who's doing it for the interest of the people. Now, that first coup d'etat that they call a coup d'etat, a lot of historians look at that as a revolutionary overthrow of a government at that point in time, a federal government at that time, that wasn't doing the best. It wasn't in the best interest of the people. They were oppressing the people of Nigeria and things of that nature. So that first coup d'etat that took place in January of 1966 was done by an Igbo individual of the military who had the people in the best interest. So him and some other individuals, they overthrew the northern individuals who were oppressing the other people of Nigeria at that point in time. And I do believe that coup d'etat, that overthrow was led by the brother by the name of Nze Agwu, if I'm not mistaken. A great brother by the name of Nze Agwu. And they overthrew those individuals. When they did that, they didn't really last long, because then you had another Igbo brother who threw a coup d'etat that wasn't in the best interest of the people. He was just doing it for self-benefit. It's an individual by the name Iranzi. Iranzi, when he came with his military individuals, they overthrew Nze Agwu, and then he put in his own little administration at that point in time, which was not in the best interest of the people. Then here comes the northern interest, which, through the Fulanis and the Muslims and the Islamic individuals, they used the individual by the name of Yakubu Gowon. And when Yakubu Gowon came in and threw his military coup, this is when the federal government of Nigeria really came into existence, because when he overthrew the other Igbo brothers, this is when he has reestablished those oppressors that got thrown over the first time by the Igbo brother Nze Agwu. And now what you see today is a result of Yakubu Gowon and his administrations and his groups when they threw their coup d'etat, the last coup d'etat, which led to the Biafra Nigerian Civil War, when General Ojukwu had enough of what Gowon was doing to the people and oppressing the people. This is when he initiated to succeed the Biafrans from the Nigerian government.
And he was met with a lot of resistance.
A lot of resistance
from the northern establishment, right?
Exactly.
And so, what can we do over here in the Americas to help our brothers and sisters over there?
Pretty much do what I do. You know what I'm saying? Like, we got to educate. First thing, educate. We got to educate people on the history of this whole, situation with the oppression of Biafra, and not want Biafra to be restored as a nation, and not want to give these individuals their sovereignty and their rights to self-determination and things of that nature. I feel like it's our duty, especially when we're talking about being related to these brothers and sisters, because many of us here in North America, these are our real true blood brothers and sisters. You know what I'm saying? And people got to realize that this is a historical, alliance with these brothers and sisters, because we had, even during the Black Panther era in the 1960s and the 1970s, the Black liberation movements, the Republic of New Africa, various organizations and Pan-Africans were always fighting in solidarity for the Biafrans, always was bringing awareness to our people here in North America on that. We need to be there for our brothers and sisters, because these brothers and sisters are being oppressed, genocide, murder. And people got to realize this. Over 6 million, over 3 million to 6 million of these Igbo brothers and sisters were murdered during the Civil War.
Yeah.
Starved to death. Like what you see today going on in Palestine, this already happened in our ancestors' land, in Igbo land, in Biafra land. 3 to 6 million brothers and sisters murdered, cut off from food, cut off from resources by the federal Nigerian government. And the majority of these individuals, they were kids. These were kids. I always like to tell people, when y'all used to see like these children that were dying from starvation and disease and hunger, and they used to plaster them all over the American scenes and things of that nature.
The hunger campaign.
Yeah, the hunger campaigns and all these things. People didn't even realize that was the Biafran War. They don't even realize that were
Really? Yeah, I didn't put the two and two together, right?
Yeah.
Until just now when you said it.
Right.
So I'm thinking, those were children in Ethiopia. Yeah. That's my first thought when I see starving children. I always think Ethiopia, but I think that's the way the Western world wanted you to think of it, as only people in Ethiopia started it. We never even heard of, when I was growing up, Biafra.
Right.
We heard of Nigeria, but never Biafra,
Yeah,
right?
you never heard. Yeah, you never heard of Biafra, and
And
like you said, that was done. That was done by that was done by counterintelligence. Like you said, the media, the Western media, that was done on purpose through counterintelligence to hide what they doing over there, and we already know what they doing over there. They stealing the resources, colonizing the land, stealing the oil. So they had to use the hunger, the famine and hunger agendas of Ethiopia and all these other type of places, and to show to the people in America, oh, they just hungry, they don't have no food, so you shouldn't get
they don't know how
involved.
to govern themselves.
Yeah, they don't know how to govern themselves and things like that. People got to realize these were all distractions to take away from the people in Africa who were fighting for self-determination, who were fighting for nationhood, who was fighting to keep control of their resources, their land, and all these type of things. See, these are the things that imperialism do. They use the counterintelligence to fool black people in America. You know what I'm saying? To keep black people from uniting with their brothers and sisters and things of that nature. It's all by design. It's all called social engineering, people. This is social engineering at its highest development.
Exactly. So that you won't rise up, or that we over here won't see an example of rising up. Same thing what they did in Haiti, right?
Yeah,
Same situation. So what this should be a wake up call for us here in America, because we can definitely take a page out of their playbook,
yes,
showing that we can stand up and resist. And sometimes it's going to take a little sacrificing. I think that we here in America is just a little bit too comfortable in our
yes,
captivity. We've come to be go along to get along.
right,
Don't want to buck the system, because you have the history of how they used to be. So a lot of
yep,
people will say that we've come a long way, but I say no, because we're not free. I'm not
right,
free to move about how I want to, right?
right,
Even if I wanted to go and visit Igbo land, I have
right.
to go through all this red tape just to get there.
Just to get there.
How free are we? So we
Right.
can definitely take a page out of their book. The same thing that they're doing over there, wanting a plebiscite vote. I think that's what it is, or
Yes.
referendum vote, right? To say that we don't want to be governed by the Nigerian government. We want to be self-governed. That's what
Right.
we are, right? So definitely we need that here over here in the Americas, like what you got going on with what we've got going on with the provisional government of the Republic of New Africa.
Yes.
Same kind of thing. We want
Yeah.
to free from your establishment, from
Right.
your constitution. We want our own. We want our own land. We want to be a self-governed, self-determined people.
Yes. Yes.
That's our human right.
And that's, like I said, that's a strict diet of social engineering to the so-called black people in America. Is they get we get this steady diet of being re-indoctrinated over and over, that, oh, we're living in the American dream, we got it good, we got this materialism being waved in our faces 24/7 on our TVs. It's being broadcasted on our radios in our homes. So people actually living here in America actually think they got it good. You see what I'm saying? But then the reality starts to set in when you start to realize that you don't got control of your water, you don't got control of your food source, you don't got control of your your your,
Education,
your education
your
system.
health care.
You don't own your own housing, you don't own your own land. So when we talking about these things, this is what we mean by freedom. See, a lot of people in America don't know what true freedom is, because they've been heavily indoctrinated and colonialized deeply, that they think what the Europeans did for us was for us, when actuality it was for them. And you
And
still haven't got to where them is. You see what I'm
right,
saying?
right.
So this is why Biafra is important, because at this point in time, think about it on this deeper diplomatic level, black people in America. If Biafra was free right now, and this is a prime example, if Biafra was free right now, we would be able to have access to resources, access to oil, um, um, foods.
We could trade with them.
We can
We
trade
could
with
trade
them.
with them.
We can trade
Yes.
with them. Yes,
Like we were doing before the colonizers came over here. See,
right,
people like to think that people was just over in Africa and they ain't never go nowhere. They just stayed in Africa. Like they never traveled, before Christopher Columbus discovered America. Like,
Right.
are you kidding me? They had ships long time ago. You know, they talk about ships in the Bible. So obviously they weren't just circling Africa. They were exploring, and they were also trading, and they were intermingling, intermarrying with people that was like them.
Right.
So this is our family. They just want you to think that they're foreigners when
Right.
actually they're the foreigners. They're Johnny come lately to the party. How can you discover something when people were already there?
Right.
It's new for
Exactly.
y'all, but it's not new for us. This is the old
No.
world for us. And so what they get, what would like you say, mentioning the fact that the Igbo people are ancient people, that
Yeah.
should encourage us even more so to want to learn and to support, because
Exactly.
it goes along with our narrative that hey, we were here first, and you guys came and raped, robbed, pillaged, stole, and you owe. So once we get that, I think once we come on that page together
Right.
on one accord, I think that things could move better for the Biafra as well as the diaspora.
Right. Right.
Right. But
Because
we don't want to even acknowledge that we Igbo people. I can't believe it.
right. Exactly. Exactly. And to add on to that point, that's what I'm saying. Like people gotta our people here in North America gotta understand that we're never gonna be a total free people until Africa is free. Simple as that. I mean, and it's very easy to see because at the end of the day, I mean, the Europeans make a prime example of that every day. Why? Why do they stay in Africa? Why are they so infatuated with Africa? Why do they want to keep colonizing Africa over and over? That should wake you up as a black person. I don't care where you at on this globe. Why do the white people and the Europeans keep going into Africa? Why they want this control over Africa? They want control over Africa because they know when they no longer control it, that's freedom for black people across the globe. The same with Biafra. Once Biafra is free, then New Africans are free. Then, Caribbean nations are finally free. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Nations in South America, black nations down there will finally be free. People got to realize this is one part of one big puzzle. Once we get the colonizers out of Africa, then you're going to see everything else start to come into what it needs to come into when it comes to people's freedom, our freedom as black people.
So what do you say to people who say that they are foundational black Americans and have no ties to Africa?
I mean, when it comes to stuff like that, people got to realize a lot of that comes out of egoism, opportunism, playing out just people that's just divided. That comes from a divided, colonized people. Because you guys, and like I tell people, there's nothing wrong with trying to establish identity. Because we know the new African misnomer, African American or black, Negro, whatever you want to call yourself, indigenous individuals, aboriginals, foundational blacks. Let me tell you something. And this is my opinion coming from me as being a new African revolutionary nationalist. I don't have nothing against people trying to establish identity and nationality because these are things that you should be doing. Because when you go into that direction, that will take you in a direction that you need to be going into, and it'll get you to where you need to go when we're talking about freedom. See, freedom, nationality, sovereignty, independence, these terminologies are very important because so many black people in America are diseducated to these terminologies. So now when you're talking about foundational black Americans and things like that, cool. The part I don't like is when you continue to add the division factor in there. Because we can't afford to be divided because you're falling right into the white supremacy plan. The
Right.
white supremacy wants you divided because if they keep you divided, they keep you colonized. They keep you conquered. Because you want to know why? You're always going to be at the bottom of classes fighting with each other, exterminating each other, genociding each other. Like right now, you know what I'm saying? Internal, it's like what like I always try to tell people, it's this internal situation that we can't seem to get out of, which is being turned against ourselves. Once we can figure out how to not turn towards each other and oppress each other and things of that nature, then we'll get on the right path to liberation and independence. So when I see these individuals, Foundation Black Americans, or whatever you want to call yourself, African American descendants of slaves and all these type of things, cool. But take the divisiveness out of it. Take the division out of it. Because once you keep doing that, you ain't gonna get to where you're trying to go with your agenda and your objectives at the end of the day. Because we're gonna still be fighting each other, battling, trying to figure out, because everybody wants their thing to be the thing. People gotta realize we're people on the globe. It's never gonna be one thing. Many black nations existed. Your nation can exist, but right now we have to be on the same liberation front to get to that point for you to even get your agenda accomplished.
I just said that this morning. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
The way we're gonna do that is through unity. That's the only way.
Because people have to understand that there's power in numbers. And like, so you're not giving up who you are just to join with this group if they're making headways to achieve that one goal, which is self-determination and reparations. Like, dude, okay, so you want to say that I don't know, monkey from California, come get this reparations. Right. I'll do that, and then when I get my money, then I'm like, nah, I ain't that. I ain't never told you I was that. You see what I'm saying? Like,
exactly.
They were like, what are we doing here? And so they're depending on us to continue to do and continue to think like we think. They're continuing. They want us to be right where we are because then they don't have to pay us anything.
Yeah, it's like this is something I always tell people. White supremacy, imperialism, fascism, and all these type of things, they like to keep us in a chaotic stage. I always tell people this. They love to sow chaos, confusion.
It's hard.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? They like to sow confusion and chaos. Because once they got you in confusion and chaos, you ain't gonna never move forward. People got to realize that's why a lot of this stuff we doing today is at a standstill today, because they got us in so much chaos and confusion, and they got us neutralized. This is what neutralization is, people. When they sow chaos and keep you in a chaotic stage, this is being neutralized. So right now they got you neutralized because they got foundational Black Americans against New Africans. They got Hebrews against these people. They got them against them. But at the end of the day, we all need each other. This is like you said, the numbers. The Europeans know this. This is how they got to the top of where they at to the global stage. They might not like each other. They might not identify with each other. But the Western Front realized that it had to be a Western Front in order for them to conquer African people. I don't know why people don't get that.
So are the Yoruba and the Igbo people coming together, or are they still divided?
Finally. Yes, you got the Yoruba people who are actually struggling and fighting for their self-determination. They're trying to bring back into existence, which is their nation, which is Oduduwa Nation, which is the Yoruba nation that was broken up when the British came into that landmass as well. So now you got the Yoruba and the Igbo people coming together to try to struggle and fight to free both of their nations. And it's at an all-time high when it comes to Yoruba and Igbo unity. I mean, they still got their little disagreements and things, but right now, no, they are on one page struggling to get back to their self-determination and their sovereignty.
They understand they have a common enemy.
Yes, exactly.
Right? And so that's where we need to be at, right? So that's why I said we need to be watching how the Biafra is moving.
Yes.
Take a page out of their book and duplicate it over here.
And most important thing, I want Black people in America. I want y'all to establish relationship with these brothers and sisters, like, because they got a worldwide movement when it comes to the internet. Like, if you go on the internet, man, BIAFRA is like one of the heaviest, and I would say outside of that Palestine stuff and these other, man, I'm talking about BIAFRA been putting this thing down for like the last 20 years. I'm talking about heavy presence on all fronts, whether in the streets, the internet, things of this. I'm talking about, man, they are so unified that we have to take a page out their book. Like they got this technology on lock. They spreading their propaganda through news medias. They got media on lock. Like, man, I'm telling you, if you online, I know you've seen BIAFRA people. Like, they're heavy. They heavy online. So, like, I would advise y'all, please establish a relationship with our brothers and sisters from Biafra land, man. And once we get that unity with them, man, I'm telling you, we're gonna help each other, and we're gonna get to where we're trying to get to when we're talking about these goals.
Yes, sir. That to me is the ultimate goal, right? Allies, like, we cannot. I was listening on TikTok today, just listening random room, right? And I heard your young lady say nobody came for us, so
Yeah.
why should we be concerned about them? Nobody came for us. I understand that's coming from a place of hurt. I
Yes.
really do. But when we done hurting, the reality is we are not that strong in numbers here to go at it alone.
It's simple as that. Simple as that. And this is
Especially
why,
when we divide it. You
yeah,
know?
this is why I don't like all the divisive division stuff that the foundational Black Americans got going on, trying to say that we're not the same as our brothers and sisters in the Caribbean islands. They're even sowing division between us and our own brothers and sisters in the Caribbean islands, in Haiti, in
And this
South
is the
America.
thing. And this is the thing that gets me, is that those same individuals do not understand that we were trading with our brothers and sisters in the Caribbean, in the South Americas, before they were born. So
Exactly.
how in the hell you gonna go and just rewrite the whole relationship based on how you feeling, all up in your feelings right
Yeah,
now?
how you feeling? Yeah,
And
it's
when
very,
you don't,
yeah,
either you don't know the history, or you just that ignorant. Ignorant just means you don't know.
exactly.
Or you playing a game to go along with the Western power to keep us subjugated.
A pawn on the chessboard.
And if you are doing that, I I will put everything on it. You're being paid to do that.
Yes, most
Their
definitely.
COINTELPRO ain't never went anywhere. It's on steroids 2.0, and like you said, they're using these, how you say, neo-colonialist people that look
Yeah,
like us.
neocolonialism. Neocolonialism is what Kwame Nkrumah uh, uh, dissected and put down scientifically to understand that he saw what was coming with these individuals once they get hypnotized by materialism, money, gifts,
Status.
and this luxury lifestyle. He said that this was going to be the highest stage of imperialism once we reach neocolonialism, which is the blackface on white supremacy and global fascism.
So how true is it that there are actually some Igbo people in North Nigeria helping to oppress their people? Is that
Yeah,
true?
that's
That's I
very
heard.
realistic. That's very realistic because you got to realize, like I said, the Igbo people are scattered all across Nigeria. They are. This is the thing people get confused. Igbo Biafran people are not just centralized to southeastern Nigeria. No, you got Igbos in northern Nigeria, in Cameroon, their neighbors. They in that area. They in Guinea. They Igbo people are scattered all across West Africa and Africa. Period. But yes, they are in northern Nigeria because at one point, with all these conflicts, the terrorism, and all these type of things that was going on, the tribalism, a lot of Igbo people were forced into like northern Nigeria at one point in time for safe haven. They went there for safe haven. And when some of those individuals went to northern Nigeria for safe haven, unfortunately, they were compromised. And when they got compromised, they started doing the bidding of the Fulani people and terrorists and things of that nature, of the jihadist Islamic State of northern Nigeria. So yeah, they're being paid by the federal government of Nigeria to help exterminate and ethnic cleanse Igbo people. Yeah, their own brothers. Yeah.
And because they have the power from the Western world, Igbos are not able to do coups like they did before. So now have to resort to just taking a political stance in the streets.
Yes, it's come down to where they got to stay on a united front because, like I said, you got to realize Igbo people are scattered all across the world. So they got mass numbers in the diaspora. They got mass numbers in Europe, Australia. So, but the key to their power is that the reason why they have such a powerful political stance is the fact they're unified. It's the unity. Like they not separate. They're all together and they all move and operate strategically and methodically on the same page. You see what I'm saying? So when you seeing them all over the internet, all in the streets, I mean, they're in the streets, heavy, active, all across this globe, heavy, even here in America, like in the DC, DMV area, Virginia. My brothers and sisters out here, heavy. We got a BIAFRA movement right here in this area that's heavy. And they stay in Washington, D.C. They stay protesting at the Capitol, at the White House, and things of this nature. So at this point, yeah, they don't got no backing of no Western nations or nothing like that, but they're showing you how to do it on their own, being self-sufficient, doing it with their own people, their own brothers and sisters, and unifying and, picking up alliances with other brothers and sisters in the diaspora. This is how they're getting it done, and we need to take a page out that book.
For sure. And not only that, though, I think, like, how everybody stood up and raised their voices when Palestinians, children were dying and innocent civilians dying, and everybody around the world stood up and said, ceasefire, ceasefire, ceasefire.
Yeah.
I think that's what we need for the Biafra.
Yeah.
How come those Palestinian children is more valuable than the children in Biafra? I'm sure there's children dying in Biafra.
Yeah,
right?
it is.
You know what I'm saying? So where is our voice for them? We have to. Stop the genocide.
And to put this out there so people can know how important this is, because I know a lot of people, they supporting Palestine and all these type of things. But y'all got to realize, since 2014, 2015, there have been over 20,000 people murdered in Igbo Biafra land. 20,000. They just put this statistic out last year. Over 20,000 children, teenagers, mothers, fathers have been kidnapped, murdered, genocided in Igbo land.
Just because they want to be free.
20,000.
Just because they want to be free.
Just because they want to be free. Yes, 20,000 brothers and sisters have been murdered. And I'm talking about massacres. Like, you don't really see it in the Western media and things of that nature. This is why we got to be the voices of our brothers and sisters in Igbo land. In fact, these things don't get broadcasted over here like that. But man, it's massacre. It's been total massacres there, in Igbo land, where you done had over 500 to 600 people killed that one time. Like, these are things you don't see. The same things you see going on in Palestine, this has been going on in Biafra land for years.
And this is government led. This is government sanctioned. It's not like the Ku Klux Klan. No. Even though some of them are dying government, you know what I mean? But but this is sanctioned by the government. And so it's done by the hands of what, their military police or what?
Yes, military police. Yep.
Wow.
They're committing constant genocide on Biafran people through the military and the police of Nigeria, the same way the American military forces are doing to New African Black people in America every day. Your George Floyds, man, they got hundreds of George Floyds being killed every day in Biafra land. Hundreds of George Floyds, you know what I'm saying, being murdered every day. Children, teenagers who are just protesting for a Biafra state.
And you know what? Can you verify that people in Biafra stood up and protested when George Floyd was murdered?
Oh, yeah, 100%. 100% they did. Yeah, 100%.
I thought I saw that. I saw that.
I actually was on a lot of their media. I was on a lot of their medias as guests during that period of time when George Floyd got killed. And we got a heavy support from Biafrans when George Floyd got killed. They were protesting in Australia, Europe, Russia. Oh, shout out to my Biafran people in Russia. We got a heavy population in Russia. They were protesting for George Floyd and things of that nature, man. South America, a lot of my brothers and sisters.
Can you say that again? Rewind it again for the people in the back. There's Black people in Russia, correct?
Yeah, yes, heavy. Yes, heavy. It's a heavy Black population.
Been there since antiquity.
Yeah, you just don't see them though. You just don't see them. They don't broadcast the Black people in Russia like they do the Europeans in Russia and things of that nature. Like, they're kind of suppressed, kind of like how the Black people in Britain is suppressed, France. Like, you don't really see the Black populations in Europe that much unless they got their own media sites and things of that nature. But yeah, our brothers and sisters is heavy in Russia, very heavy.
Yeah, so we're scattered to the four corners of the earth.
Four corners of the earth. Yeah, like when people hear that acronym, we're scattered four corners of the planet. This is facts.
Yeah,
This is truth.
it's really facts. It's
Yeah.
really facts. So, wow, Biafra.
And before we even get to the like towards the end, this is something else I want to bring to the forefront for the fact that Biafra's Heroes Day, Remembrance Day is May 30th annually every year. So this week coming up, May 30th, is the Biafra Remembrance Day, Memorial Day, Heroes and Herons Day, in honor to commemorate the fallen of the Biafra Civil War, to honor those 3 million to 6 million, the real Holocaust before the other Holocaust. You know what I'm saying? And things of that nature. I would like people to understand that the leader of IPOB, Mazi Nandi Kanu, write that name down, because this is a political prisoner of conscience, a political prisoner of war. This is the actual leader, and like I said, a great brother who has took up the struggle and took up the torch from General Ojukwu, and has became the leader of the BIAFRA Nation, of the IPOB and the Igbo people. He's currently captured in Nigeria. They kidnapped this brother in Kenya and brought him back to Nigeria in 2021. And they got this brother captured in some of the most dehumanizing conditions. The brother is suffering from sickness. He's suffering from illnesses. He's suffering from lack of proper resources and medical aid. So I'm sending out the shout. I'm sending out the call to my brothers and sisters here in America, the new Africans in America. Please do your research on the case of Mazi Nandi Kanu, an international political.
You gotta spell that for me, brother. Spell it for me.
Oh, Nnamdi.
Nnamdi.
Mdi. Kanu, Kanu.
Kanu.
Yeah, Nandi Kanu.
That's it?
Yeah, that's it.
Political prisoner, right?
Yeah, political prisoner of war, who was like in 2022, 2023, this brother was acquitted of his charges that they had against him, but they still refused to let the brother go. So we're still trying to bring agitation and to his name to get this great brother free, because one way they trying to neutralize the Biafra movement is by keeping Nnamdi Kanu incarcerated. So I'm sending out the call to Black people in America, please scream free Mazi Nandi Kanu, so we can get this brother free and back on the liberation front for his people.
Thank you for putting that out there like that, my brother. Yeah, and there, I see you all the time on IG. For everyone that's listening now and may listen later, please follow our brother Haki Shakur on IG. It's the New African Broadcast, right? Channel?
Yeah, New Africa History Channel.
New African History Channel.
Yep.
On IG.
Yep. And YouTube.
He is, yes, and YouTube, right? This brother here, I go to IG for my history, for our history, from my brother. He's dedicated, consistent. Every day I learn something new about us, our people, whether it be over there in the motherland or whether it be here in the Americas, and our political prisoners. I love how I never even knew all these people were still locked up behind the oppressive nature of these heathens and these Europeans here in this land. It is so appalling. What they've done to us is documented, including this government, right?
Right.
And it's like a slap in the face when they tell us, oh, we need to study. We need to study reparations to see if y'all deserve it.
Right. That's humiliating, disrespectful.
And then now in California, they're going to make them go through some type of litmus test to prove that you are a descendant of slave.
Yes. Disrespectful.
Right? So what if I'm not a descendant of slave? A slave, right? Have I been discriminated against in this land? Did my, ancestors have to go through Jim Crow, even though they weren't slaves? They went through Jim Crow.
Right.
They went through redlining, right? They went through the Code of War, right? The Black Code.
Yep.
So we don't get nothing. Even if you wasn't enslaved, you still was oppressed.
Slavery never
Exactly.
ended though. Slavery never ended under the 13th Amendment. The 13th
Exactly.
Amendment, the 13th Amendment in 21st century slavery is alive today because what they told you. They said slavery didn't end unless you committed a crime. And once you commit that crime, you are now being reestablished as a slave. You see what I'm saying?
That's it.
This is where the prison industrial complex come from. It's an extension of plantation slavery. People got to realize that. So when they talking about slavery ended and all these, like, no, it didn't. Like you just said, the black codes, Jim Crow, the Ma'afa is still alive today. This is what we
Yes.
call genocide. The
Right.
genocide never ended. The genocide continues.
That's why they can shoot us down in the street like nothing.
Yeah.
Like it's nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like nowhere else in the world but
Nowhere
America.
in the world. Nowhere in the world.
But
Where you see
that's
people
where we
constantly
are.
murdered by the military police forces like they are of the United States of America. Every day, a brother just got killed. It's a couple of brothers that just got killed by
It's every
police.
day. It's every
Yeah,
day.
it's every day. And I try to tell this, I try to show this to my brothers and sisters also in Biafra land to let them know that they're not alone. Like, and they see it, they know what's going on. We being murdered every day in America, just like the people in Palestine, just like the people in Sudan, Congo. No matter where we at on this globe, we've been West Pupal. You know what I'm saying? All these places, we being murdered every day.
Part of the agenda. Part of the agenda because they know that if we rise up, if we unite, if we all are on one accord as an Igbo nation,
Yep.
it is over for them. It's
It's
over.
over. Yeah, it's over.
It's over for them. So I'm so glad, my brother, that you came today and you spoke on nation.
Right.
Because our people need to understand that we are a nation of people. The creator deals with nations of people, right? So we can't continue to be this over here and then this over there. Where's our nation?
Where's our nation? Exactly. You know what I'm saying? Like people, we could take this. I don't care what part of historical aspect or context you want to put it in. You want to go biblical, you want to go religious. Nations have always existed. You know what I'm saying? Even through these religions, they talk about the nations of peoples.
Yes.
In the Bible, it's nations of peoples. So
That's
I
right.
don't understand how you can be a part of these denominations and you leave out the political aspects of denominations when they got political aspects all through your biblical texts, all
Exactly.
through your Islamic texts, they all through your denominational texts. So this is why I'm trying to get our people to see like nation.
Nation.
You know what I'm saying?
That's
Nation.
but just like you said in the beginning, what's going on in Biafra, they are not allowing these people to self-determine, to determine who they want to be. That's
Exactly.
a God-given right. That's a human right.
Human right.
Even like you said, the UN acknowledges that. The UN has acknowledged that people in diaspora in the Americas deserve to be self-determined.
Yep.
We just got to do it. We just got to do it. We just got to not be afraid to separate ourselves.
Right.
Like the Igbo people are saying, we're not Nigerian. We're Igbo. We're the Igbo nation. Stand up for that.
And to not see this as a bad thing. You got so many black people in America who still attached to Uncle Sam's breast. They can't let go of Uncle Sam's breast. You see what I'm saying? I hate to use that terminology, but I got to use that ABC terminology. So many black people in America can't let go of America's breast. You see what I'm saying? That they can't even see themselves doing nothing on their own. So this is how they got you again on the chessboard. You know what I'm saying? Is that you don't even see yourself doing this on your own. You don't see being on your own. It's kind of like a kid that can't leave the house. You can't leave the nest. You see what I'm saying? Like
but then at the same breath, my brother, they saying I'm the individual. You can't tell me who I am. I know who I am.
Right.
Do you really? Do you really? Are you trying to be some similitude of what you've seen?
Yeah, we should be one. We should be one to come to a complete solution to this abusive relation to the American empire. Simple as that. This is what I always like to tell my brothers and sisters. We are in an abusive relationship. Do you want to continue to stay in the abuse, or do you want to get liberated from the abuse? It's common sense. It's logical. Like Malcolm X said, at the end of the day, it's logical. Do you want to stay in this abusive relationship, or do you want a relationship of your own?
But you know, just like anybody that's a victim of an abusive relationship, they stay in it because they think the person loved them. They're doing it because they love us. They really love us, but they never really made us citizens.
Never. Never.
Like you said, they made sure that they had an out with the prison system to keep you in bondage. And then they created all these laws, criminal justice system, all these laws that was geared towards keeping you and locking you up.
Yep.
Congregating, just people meeting together, 3-4 people meeting together on the street corner was cause for you to be locked up and put in prison, back in slavery, just like that. And so, yeah, my heart goes out to those brothers and sisters in the Biafra that's standing up for self-determination. I'm with them 100%. I'm with them 100%. If you don't want to be called Nigerian, you have that God-given right not to be called Nigerian. Just like I'm not an African American. I don't.
Exactly.
Even on applications and everything, if they got an other box, I'm gonna be other.
Yeah.
I'm not African American. I'm not gonna help you with your statistics.
Right.
Right. So you can continue to subjugate us. Right. You don't count me in your BS. In other words, don't count me. Count me out. Right. Set apart. That's what we need to be, set apart. And when we learn how to do that, then I guess we can reach out and help our brothers and sisters over there. Until we get it together here, we can't help them.
Exactly.
You gotta help yourself before you help somebody else. So, my brother, what is your last word on this whole situation with you say Biafra? Am I saying it right? I say Biafra.
I mean, people, a lot of people pronounce it both ways. Some people say Biafra, some people say Biafra, but the correct pronunciation is Biafra, because remember what I told you, in Igbo language, that I is an E sound, so it's Biafra. So you know, for people out there who want to know how to pronounce it, some people say Biafra because they don't really, understand the pronunciation when it comes to the I E sounds. But it's Biafra. Because even myself, even with my southern, accent, is like I get tongue tied and I say Biafra. So it's Biafra, you know what I'm saying? So
Biafra.
But no, I just want to say, send shout outs to my brothers and sisters in Biafra land. I'm with you. I love you. We will continue to stand in solidarity with you from the New African Nation, the New African Independence Movement. We are with you. We're in solidarity with our brothers and sisters until freedom is established and liberation is established and your restoration is established. But yeah, May 30th, stand in solidarity with our brothers and sisters in Biafra land. It's a sit at home. It's a thing we do every year. May 30th, we don't do nothing. We stand in solidarity. We don't go outside. We stand in solidarity with our brothers and sisters and stand up and make a stiff resistance stance against the federal government of Nigeria and make the call. Give them a referendum. Give our brothers and sisters a plebiscite. Give them the human rights of self-determination to decide what they want to do. This is what we calling out for on May 30th. Stand in solidarity with our brothers and sisters so they can get this referendum. And also, last but not least, free Mazi, Nnamdi Kanu, and free all political prisoners of Biafra and New Africa. And that's pretty much it. Free the land by any means necessary.
Hashtag free the land, my brother. And I do appreciate you. Of course, you're welcome to come back at any time. I got to think of another subject or topic for us to get into. You are awesome, my brother. Salute to you. Love you with the love of Yahuwah. Brother, I want you to be safe out there. Keep your head on the swivel because you're very valuable and they know it, right?
I appreciate that. I appreciate it.
Keep doing what you do, my brother, and I want to bid you shalom.
You too. Shalom.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you once again for joining me with another session of Sunday Rap Session with News, Facts, and Comments in conjunction with Major TV. Yes, that was very, very informative. And I hope you learned something. I hope you found a new compassion for our brothers and sisters over in Biafra. Whether you want to believe it or not, they are our brothers and sisters. And if they get free, if they're able to achieve self-determination, then most likely we will be too. So let's take a page out of their book and strive for unity the way that the Yoruba and the Igbo people, Yoruba Nation came together. We can do that here too, and then we can be strong enough to support them in a united front for all melanated people to be free from the oppression of the colonizers, European Westerners. And with that, I say thank you for watching. Take care of yourself and each other. Until next time, that's a wrap.
One for the money, you know what it is. Two for the show, yeah, we shut it down. Three just to make sure you ready. Four, let them know that we run this town. One for the money, you know what it is. Two for the show, yeah, we shut it down. Three just to make sure you ready. Four, let them know that we run. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. You are now tuned in to the greatest. The greatest of all time. The greatest of all time.
I'm gonna be better. I'm gonna be I'm gonna be better. I'm gonna be better. I'm gonna be better. I'm gonna be I'm gonna be better. I'm gonna be better.
One for the money, you know what it is. Two for the show, yeah, we shut it down. Three just to make sure you ready. Four, let them know that we run this town. One for the money, you know what it is. Two for the show, yeah, we shut it down. Three just to make sure you ready.